Richard, thank you very much indeed. And you're right, I do have a recruitment business, but I also have a merger integration business. And we found that when we have been out speaking to clients about that integration, we have heard the same issues, regardless of the size of the firm. So we did undertake research to try and find out why those issues are recurrent. Could our research help others avoid the same issues? Because it came from a peer group. And that research has led to us writing a book, Mergers with the Benefit of Hindsight. Now, Robin Sharma, the Canadian writer, said the real trick is to turn hindsight into foresight that reveals insight. And the biggest insight we found where merger hinges on success or failure is communication, simply because it impacts every single area of the business. And George Bernard Shaw said this: the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it's taken place, because none of us believe we communicate badly. If I put my recruiter's hat on, every CV I've read, I think over 30 years, will always say something about how fantastic that person's communication skills are. And it should be easy: a sender, a message, and a recipient. But that's not communication, that's sending a message. And that's what we forget, because communication has to involve listening and it has to involve acting on feedback. So our research showed that communication has three key areas of impact that I'll discuss today. So partners, staff, and clients. So let me start with partners. Well, communication starts from the minute you start talking about a merger, and it comes from the top. We all know there's seldom a merger of equals in M&A. One firm is usually dominant, but it's good PR to refer to them as mergers simply because it makes everyone feel better. But I did have one managing partner in the research say to me, we never say we acquire a firm. You acquire things and not people. And I think that speaks volumes to his communication style. Now, partners need a compelling reason to merge. They need to understand the vision for the merged entity. So how that's communicated to them is absolutely key. And if we think about that George Bernard Shaw quote and that illusion of it taking place, I was given a great example by the CEO of a global law firm. Now, they put together a prospectus for their partners, outlining the issues to be considered in a major merger. By all accounts, it was a beautifully presented document. But at every meeting to discuss it, partners complained they weren't aware, it hadn't been debated before, they didn't understand where this had come from. So they had to find out why this was happening. And when they did find out, the reason was only 1 in 10 of their hundreds of partners had actually read this beautifully prepared prospectus. And I think if we're being really, really honest, most of us would have probably had a quick look and then put this beautiful document in a bottom drawer to preserve it. So sending documents or emails might not be the best way to communicate, but it might be part of your communication plan. But the problem is when you've taken the trouble to prepare a document so well, here's that illusion of a job well done. And what about communication with staff? Well, in reality, few people actually meet before a merger. Partners obviously do, and probably your finance directors do. So people start to work for a new firm when they haven't emotionally chosen to leave their existing firm. And that won't cause an issue where that individual's hierarchical position isn't put under threat, but absolutely expect resistance when it is. And when communication's poor, there is an issue of losing key staff, which obviously disrupts the whole point of a merger. A managing partner said to us, no wonder there was a continuous stream of people fighting to leave. We had backstabbing associates, we had warring partners, downtrodden PAs, and 2 directors for every business operation function, all jockeying for position, because they made the error of waiting until after the merger deal was signed to decide what to do with those key roles. You need to have a plan in place from day one of the merger about key positions, so staff understand what's happening and they trust what it is that you're telling them. And what about client communication? Well, integration when you do a merger takes up swathes of time and energy to the extent it is really easy to assume that you've communicated with clients. And a CEO of a London firm told me, we didn't have a plan on how we inform clients. We left it to individuals, and that was an error because there was no strength or depth to the message. So if you're not prepared, you will have a communication vacuum. And the merger is a time for constant and consistent client communication. How do you gain a 360-degree view of your clients from across a merged firm? How do you unlock those collaborative opportunities across the firm to deliver a better client experience? And how do you deliver that message to your clients? Have you thought how you're going to include your client in messages to ensure you secure their long-term loyalty? And I was given a really wonderful analogy from one participant in our research who brought in management consultants to consider how the merger would impact on their clients. And that consultancy started their presentation with a slide, and it showed a row of generic baked bean cans. And they were told, if you don't have a vision for your clients, that's how you're going to be perceived. Nothing different. You're just going to sit there with every other firm. And that very stark image and message sparked debate on what it was the client really wanted and how to communicate the changes that would be of benefit to them. And because for many firms, the whole point of M&A is to gain clients and to strengthen those relationships. So in conclusion, I would say this: remember, communication starts from the second you debate M&A. And our advice is have a very strong and thought through communications plan, which will benefit you. And don't assume that people at all levels are on side if you tell them something once or even twice. Your messages need to be consistent and they need to be ongoing to avoid that illusion of communicating really well. Thanks, Richard.